This past week, Jehovah's Witnesses deleted a video from their official website, jw.org. You know what that means? They don't want members to see it anymore for some reason, and that's interesting. So I thought in this video we could watch the video that they removed and try and figure out why don't they want us to see it anymore. The video in question is the January 2015 episode of JW Broadcasting hosted by Anthony Morris III. The third in a proud line of Anthony Morrises. Now, most of my viewers probably know this already, but Anthony Morris III was removed unceremoniously from the governing body. There was just one brief announcement saying that he was no longer on the governing body, and then that was it. That's all we ever heard, ever again. And ever since, they've been removing a lot of his content from jw.org. Mostly they've been removing really embarrassing stuff. Anthony Morris was something of a source of embarrassment for reasons we might see later in this broadcast. So they removed videos where he appears to have some sort of bloodlust for the destruction of Jehovah's enemies.
They will vanish like smoke. So here's what Jehovah's promising. As Jehovah's enemies.
Or where he's slurring his speech and barely making any sense at all.
And then, I'm if you're a son of God.
But there's one video that they hadn't removed until this week that I was always surprised by. I've had my eye on this one. And it's this talk about divine education.
I have long said, the better the university, the greater the danger.
I've used this in some pretty recent videos of mine. So at least as of 2 months ago, this was up, but nobody caught it until this week. So you might think, well, it was just removed because it's Anthony Morris, but no, they've let this one stay up for a while, and still quite a few of his talks remain on the website. You might think maybe they're removing this video because they're going to change their view of higher education, but no, this is still the current light. Like the most recent talk on higher education just reaffirms that you should go back and watch this one, which you can't watch anymore.
Most of us remember the January 2015 JW
Hopefully they remember it
program
really well.
Hosted by Brother Morris of the governing body.
Formerly of the governing body.
He focused on the value of divine education. Well, we will say no more about this topic.
We will say no more.
Than what Brother Morris has already shared.
Well, you can't.
You might want to go back and review that broadcast.
So now there's this Anthony Morris shaped vacuum. They don't have a talk that clearly outlines the material. Sort of like in A Bug's Life when like a leaf falls in the middle of their line and instantly the guy screams that he's lost.
Oh no! I'm lost! Where's the line? It just went away! Dude, what do I do? Help! We'll be stuck here forever!
Now stay calm. We are going around the leaf.
Around the leaf? I don't think we can do that.
That's kind of what happens when a policy is removed but not replaced within Jehovah's Witnesses. So this must be removed for some other reason. And I do have some theories, which we might have to go in a certain corner later to discuss. But for now, let's get into this. Let's figure out why this thing was deleted officially and deliberately. Let's see what the man is trying to keep from us.
Back in 2005, the faithful slave provided counsel regarding higher education. You may have noticed that we've not published that thorough of a discussion on the subject since that time. Why is that? Has the governing body changed its position regarding the pursuit of higher secular education? No.
So right off the bat, this talk is about Jehovah's Witnesses' stance on higher education. Jehovah's Witnesses are sort of like opposite Mormons. Mormons want members to become really wealthy so that they can give the church a tenth of their income. They encourage members to go to college. They own a college. They want their members in professional fields making a lot of money so that the church makes a lot of money. Jehovah's Witnesses, as a high control group, want to keep their members poor, reliant on the group. Members are reminded often to keep their lives simple. You should be constantly analyzing your circumstances to see, well, could I work a part-time job and spend the rest of my time pioneering, aka doing work for the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society? of Pennsylvania, in which there's currently a grand jury investigation into child sexual abuse within the religion. So Jehovah's Witnesses actively discourage higher education. They don't want members getting too big for their britches. You're allowed to have carpenter and plumber britches, but not lawyer britches. And I'm sorry that I'm saying the word britches so much. And it probably goes without saying that higher education, educates you. It teaches you critical thinking skills and exposes you to cultures other than your own. Witnesses especially discourage staying on a college campus away from home. That's where all the debauchery happens.
All too often, our young people have met with spiritual disaster, especially after leaving home and living on a university campus.
You let your kid live in one of these dormitories, next thing you know, he's suckling at Darwin's teat.
Her son now believed in evolution. How sad.
Stay tuned for that. But as he said at the outset, their policy hasn't changed since 2005. This was recorded in 2015, and it is now almost 2025. So their policy hasn't changed in upwards of 2 years. That's true. I mean, it was more than 2 years ago. I'm right. Their policy hasn't changed, so why bother deleting the talk? In fact, it might have been the only thing on video confirming their beliefs in higher education. Well, if I'm thinking about Watchtower's benefit from their own point of view, not having this on record is better for them.
Higher education. What do we mean when we use that expression? The October 1st, 2005 issue of the Watchtower that I referred to earlier provided a definition. It used the example of the educational system in the United States, acknowledging that it involves 12 years of basic education in public schools. Then it stated, thereafter, students may choose to attend university for 4 or more years, leading to a bachelor's degree or to postgraduate studies for careers in medicine, law, engineering, and so forth. Such university education is what is meant when the term higher education is used.
But I suspect that they're going to release a new version of this, like a new kind of updated, less specifically worded version of this talk. This talk is very specific about things you're not allowed to pursue, like a bachelor's degree. How many years is too many years of college? It was very specific, so you knew exactly who was messing up. You had this perfect little metric system that you could measure all people by their level of holiness. Courts are starting to pay more attention to Jehovah's Witnesses, not just child sexual abuse, but emotional abuse. They've been defunded in Norway, and a recent New Zealand Royal Commission talked about the emotional abuse within the group. So they might have gotten rid of this because they don't actually want to appear on record saying things that might constitute emotional abuse or manipulation or clearly greedy, slimy motives of cult leaders, maybe arguably. Watchtower's business model requires them to be tax exempt as a charity, but they're not a charity. We don't really have time to get into that, but little statements like this might start to cast doubt on whether or not the government shouldn't be taxing them. And if a lot of governments around the world started thinking that, it would be big trouble for them in the old wallet department. Shout out to Walletgate, link in the description. Anyway, let's get back to this.
Our goal now is to focus on and intensify our promotion of the pursuit of divine education. If parents and young ones are motivated to avidly pursue divine education, the quest for higher secular education becomes less and less of an issue.
The way he words this is fascinating. He says the more they focus on divine education, the desire to go to college becomes less and less of an issue. I'm paraphrasing.
If parents and young ones are motivated to avidly pursue divine education, the quest for higher secular education becomes less and less of an issue.
Are motivated to avidly pursue divine education. Motivated to. So maybe you have to be made to do it. Maybe you have to be sort of forced into doing it. Kind of brainwashed, you might say. And if you really motivate them to think that divine education is important because the world's going to end any day now, and we're not going to need all sorts of fancy degrees in the post-apocalypse, well, then they're not going to need to go to college because they will recognize, truthfully, because this is the truth, that college campus will have been destroyed by a meteor. Now, you might think that was me being a little over the top, but no, that's actually what he says.
What secular skills will we be promoting? skills that will be useful to God's organization now and after Armageddon. For example, we need construction skills around the world right now. And think about this. We will not need doctors or lawyers after Armageddon, but we will need carpenters and plumbers and similar construction trades.
Okay, he didn't say the meteor thing, but most of it.
As most of you know, I am a father. My wife and I raised 2 boys in the truth. Once a father, always a father. So even though my sons are grown and married, I still think like a father. And that is why I wanted to address this subject on JW Broadcasting.
Anthony Morris seems like a really awesome dad. What a great guy. What a great father he must have been. Anthony Morris would bring this up a lot when he was on the governing body, when he was on top of the food chain. But I don't think it's just because he was proud to be a dad. I think it's because he was actually the only dad on the governing body. Could be mistaken. Maybe these 2 newbies have kids, but I don't think so. So now a bunch of childless men's rights activists are going to tell you how to have kids and how to raise your kids and what kind of sexual positions you are and aren't allowed to do in your pursuit of having kids or not.
Ultimately, it is the decision of the parents as to the amount of secular education they feel is necessary for a child to later care for a family of his own.
His own. Sorry,
As
ladies.
parents, we would be remiss if we did not encourage our child to pursue a skill or trade that would enable him to start off a marriage successfully. Having said that, it does not change the fact that all too often our young people have met with spiritual disaster, especially after leaving home and living on a university campus.
Watchtower typically likes to have a little bit more plausible deniability than spiritual disaster if you go to college. Like, if they ever needed to make this argument in court, they really couldn't, because they have this video saying, hey, at least since 2005, we are telling you loud and clear, college bad, scary, disastrous, danger, harm. But it is up to you. I mean, like, it's your choice. It's your choice. And look, Your Honor, we even said in the video.
Ultimately, it is the decision of the parents. Having said that,
So it's your choice, but ultimately you're accountable to Jehovah, and Jehovah's going to be so upset and sad if you send your kid to college, because it's like you're sending them into the lion's pit.
so parents and children, you need to have a goal, and you need to have a plan. If you're missing either one, Satan will provide it for you.
We all understand the illustration that Anthony Morris is making here. You know that thing in real life when you're walking around with your plan and then you drop it for a second, and in the time when you go and pick up your plan as it's kind of blowing in the wind down the street, some hooligan, some street urchin comes and just shoves a fake plan in your hands? We've all been there. That's how the world works. There's plans that you have with God, and there's Satan's plans. If you don't have a plan, evil demonic forces will come and insert a plan into your very brain. I'm paraphrasing. That's what I got out of that.
Young people, ask yourself, why am I considering additional education? Is it because I'm pursuing a specific skill or trade to support my service to Jehovah? Or have I been pressured by the system into believing that higher education will somehow make me a more respected person or lead me to a better life?
As if such a thing were possible, as if a life outside of Jehovah's Witnesses could ever be better. Imagine being pressured to believe something about Jehovah's Witnesses one way or the other. Anthony Morris would never pressure you to do anything. These are the only reasons why anyone goes to college, by the way. I am learning a skill. I have no ambitions to become successful with this skill. I will make just enough money to barely scrape by in my 1-bedroom apartment with my 3 children as a Jehovah's Witness. If you want any more than that, you have been pressured by Satan into thinking that maybe having a better job and not spending all your time working for this scam fake charity would be better. You've been tricked into thinking that your life outside of that could be better. That's crazy. Don't listen to all these worldly, satanic psychopaths who are saying things like, you learn things at college and it's good to learn things, and you can get a degree and become an expert in a thing and you can get a better job. And in fact, just on a practical level, a lot of jobs require college degrees, and that's not fair. The world shouldn't be that way, but it is, regardless of what religion you're in. So you might just have to get a degree to survive, to live. But
No.
Anthony Morris is saying, not so fast, motherfucker. Can't you learn a trade? Why can't you just learn a trade? It's quite an ableist argument when you think about it. If you're in any way disabled, if you have chronic health issues that prevent you from working in the trades, well, I guess you can get a little bit of college so you can get a tiny little job. It's your choice. But
Let me review the scriptural basis for our previous published concerns about higher education. As an example, 1 Corinthians 15:33 says,
so Jehovah's Witnesses, God's one true organization who has the best translation of the Bible because they put Jehovah's name in there in all the right places, don't ask anyone outside the group. They love the Bible so much, it's all based on the Bible. It's just that you don't necessarily hear so much about the Bible for the first 5 minutes and 38 seconds of this broadcast. All of this strong condemnatory language and black and white thinking, life and death stakes, and Satan, that was all before any Bible was involved. Then he's just like, oh yeah, by the way, here's the scriptures for this or whatever. But you were supposed to just believe him before he read the scripture anyway. You weren't supposed to be thinking, well, is any of this based on the Bible? No. You know better than that. Jehovah wouldn't have put this on his website if he didn't. Well, he did delete it eventually, or someone did. Maybe the message was true, but he just wanted a different guy to say it later. I mean, he's had to refilm some of his previous guy's stuff.
Why will Jehovah, a God of love, execute millions of people?
So maybe Jehovah did want this to be what his canonical stance on college is, but he didn't know when he first appointed Anthony Morris to the governing body that Anthony Morris would later do something that would result in him no longer being on the governing body. Perhaps something that was so bad that you might have to start deleting evidence from your website. God has selective abilities of foresight. He just kind of peeks around the corner sometimes to get a little glimpse, but he didn't do that in this case, so he didn't know that at the time. So maybe they'll just refilm it with Gage Flegel like they did that other time.
1 Corinthians 15:33 says, bad associations spoil useful habit. While it is true that the ancient city of Corinth was known for its immoral lifestyle, what was the Apostle Paul primarily concerned about when he penned those words? In verse 12 of the same chapter, he made clear that his comment about bad associations had to do with what the other persons believed. It was a doctrinal issue. If we are in continued association with those who do not believe the same, it can erode our thinking and convictions.
And that's it. That's the only biblical qualification given, just bad association, spoil useful habits. As Raymond Franz points out in his book, Crisis of Conscience, this was really just used as post hoc rationalization for anything that you wanted to do as a governing body member. You could always just say, well, the scriptural principle is that bad association spoils useful habits. Because all it really means is, if you're around bad people, it might make you do bad stuff. If you're around people who aren't Christian, it'll make you less Christian. And so anything in the world can be just called bad association.
May all of us avoid bad association, whether in person, on TV, or on the internet.
College, you have to associate with the people in the school. This doesn't look great when stacked up against the arguments they make about disfellowshipping in legal proceedings. Watchtower likes to maintain that they don't pressure their members to do anything. Everything is a personal choice based on the Bible. But they're dumb, and they're bad at this, so they just also will say outright the opposite on their official website that anyone can access and play to the jury. To be like, no, they don't really believe that. Because he just said that the more you're around people who aren't Jehovah's Witnesses, the less Jehovah's Witnessy you're going to become. The new personality is made of paper, and if you get it a little bit wet, it just kind of melts off your body, so you got to reapply that stuff a lot.
Some have felt that spending time with non-believers in a university settings no different than working secularly with those who do not share our beliefs. And in fact, bad associations in the workplace can be a real danger. However, it is one thing to work on a job with others and quite another matter to immerse oneself in an institution of learning.
The quote-unquote learning. Unbelievable. The only thing you're going to get in a college is a bunch of professionals who have dedicated themselves to learning a specific thing so that they can teach others about that thing, and that's their whole job, is to be an expert in that one thing. Some would call that learning. But what Anthony Morris has is magazines that his friends wrote and little beliefs about invisible people based on magazines other people wrote, like in the 1800s. And all those magazines and little calculations based on Bible math told Anthony Morris that he was one of the most special people in the world, that he was one of 144,000 people to ever live who will get to go to heaven. He's that special. That's how special Anthony Morris is. That's the kind of learning that he got from Jehovah's Witnesses. And it got him all the way to the top until it didn't. And now we don't know if he's even technically anointed anymore. Did a new spot in heaven open up? I don't know. These are the kind of uncomfortable questions you get watching videos like this. It's pretty weird that they haven't just removed all of them at this point.
In Romans 12:2, Paul said to stop being molded by this system of things, but be transformed by making your mind over. We are to be careful that this system does not mold or shape our thinking. The verse said to make over your minds, not hand over your minds.
We are to be careful. What a crazy way of using the passive voice and using the power of we to just make a command, to just command someone to do something.
We are to be careful that this system does not mold or shape our thinking.
We are to be careful. Aren't we, everyone? Well, what about someone who joins Jehovah's Witnesses? Do they hand their mind over to you guys, and then you let Jehovah mold it? And then, of course, you brainwash them, by which I mean you wash their thinking clean.
Some may say, unity of belief, you're brainwashed. Well, we do agree that our thinking has been washed clean from the complicated doctrines that have evolved since Jesus walked the earth.
That one they keep on the website.
Higher learning can easily influence thinking and attitudes.
It would be so awful to let the worldly attitudes rub off on you. Personalities in the world are so awful. You have these people who are scolding and holier than thou and pretentious and who think that they know everything and everybody just has to do things their way. Otherwise, they're going to be in big trouble, mister. People like that are so annoying. In this next part, Anthony Morris gives us some hard data. He gives us some reports from the field. Elders and assistants to the regional managers, circuit overseers, they're our eyes and ears on the ground. And they have come back with some harrowing reports.
Elders in congregations that are in close proximity to universities are well aware of the repeated scenario of parents coming to the Kingdom Hall with a child that they're dropping off to attend the nearby university. Sadly, often in a few weeks or months, the child begins missing meetings. And not too long into the school year, he totally disappears. Then the parents are upset with the local body of elders for not shepherding
Oh, don't take
their
it out
child.
on the elders. They're just trying to help.
My question is,
Whoa.
who dropped them off at the university? So where does the responsibility really lie?
Listen, Jehovah's Witness parents, here's the rub. If you let your kid go to college and you think that he's just going to keep going to the Kingdom Hall like a good little servant of Jehovah, you're out of your goddamn mind. If we've heard it once, we've heard it 1,000 times. Little innocent JW kid gets dropped off to Big Boy University. He thinks he's going to keep carrying microphones and adjusting the stage and giving substitute number 2 talks. You think he's going to be highlighting his Watchtower like he always did and writing little comments in the margins about what he might say during the question and answer part of the meeting on Sundays. But as soon as he takes one little tiptoe into modern-day Sodom and Gomorrah, he's going to be dragged by the riptide of Satan's debauchery. Next thing you know, he's another one of these kids on milk cartons, which was a relevant cultural reference when Anthony Morris was a young lad. Anthony Morris went to a little bit of university, you see. He became like a surgical tech and then did surgery stuff in the military in a war, I think Vietnam. This guy knows the kind of sexy stuff that happens on a college campus. The drinking, the sex, mostly just those two things. But definitely not learning. What, you think just because you get a fancy college degree you're smarter than me? One of the people that Jesus chose to run his company? Yeah, okay.
When we make a decision, we must realistically also accept the consequences.
Let's be realistic here. Let's be realistic. If you let your kid go to college, the worst things imaginable are going to happen. And that's just us kind of keeping it down to earth, the place that I will look down upon from heaven soon.
Turn with me to 2 Timothy chapter 2, verse 20. This was written by Paul as an illustration for Timothy to consider. Now, it makes sense that the large house commented on refers to the congregation.
Next, Anthony Morris is just going to really quickly run through some basic Bible explanations that make a lot of sense. You don't even really have to look into this. He's just going to rattle off what this scripture in the Bible means. Doesn't seem like he's taken any humongous logical leaps that self-serve his religion.
If we should be that careful about our association inside the congregation, the application is even more appropriate when it comes to institutions of secular learning.
You got to do a little bit of math, some of that Bible math that I was talking about earlier. If this is true inside the congregation, and he established that it definitely means inside the congregation, even though it says a large house, but he kind of bridged the gap for you and told you that's what the Bible writer really meant.
Now, it makes sense that the large house commented on refers to the congregation. And the utensils of varying value would be like individual members of the congregation.
Well, if that's true, if the first thing he said is true, then the second thing he said is true. And if that second thing is true, then you know this third thing has got to be true. This is real learning. This is divine education. What are you going to learn about? Evolution?
I have long said,
He's long said this.
the better the university, the greater the danger.
What does that even mean?
The better the university, the greater the danger.
What the fuck does that mean?
The most intelligent and eloquent professors will be trying to reshape the thinking of your child, and their influence can be tremendous.
Really good professors will make you not be a witness anymore. And I've long said that. I have long said that if you get a really good education, you will be too educated to be a Jehovah's Witness. And I've always said that, and I'm going on record on purpose. He's doing like an old propaganda film, but saying good things.
Secret Soviets will be trying to manipulate your child. That's why you need American flag-flavored gum.
But the thing he's warning about is eloquent professors.
Do you know where your child is tonight? Perhaps she really is just off at the soda jerk with Colin Johansson. But perhaps she's at a university. The most dangerously intelligent and eloquent professors in the world will be shaping the mind of your child, turning them into an evolution believer inner.
One mom, I recall, asked me to try and help her son who was attending a prestigious name university in Rhode Island.
Okay, sorry to derail this even further, but we're going to have to hop into the conspiracy corner a little faster than anticipated.
Welcome, Internet. I'm so happy to share with you this conspiracy theory.
What the hell is happening with Anthony Morris when he says the word bang?
A prestigious name university.
I think what is supposed to be happening is he says prestigious named university? Prestigious Maine University?
Name university. Name university.
But then he says Rhode Island?
Name university in Rhode Island.
It seems pretty clear to me that they swapped in a word. It's like the Krusty Camp Counselor thing in The Simpsons.
I'll see you in a few weeks. Until then, I've turned things over to my bestest buddy in the whole wide world.
Mr. Black.
I want you to treat
Mr. Black
with the same respect you would give me.
Or adhesive medical strips in Invader Zim.
Sell 100 bars and you win a adhesive medical strip.
A prestigious name university.
They clearly are replacing over whatever he said originally. I mean, it looks like his mouth says Maine. Now, the ideal thing would be to put on the captions, the official captions on jw.org, but it's been taken off the website. However, an enterprising ex-JW activist has created this website that has a database of all of the subtitles of all the videos they've ever made, and it simply says who is attending a prestigious university. It doesn't have prestigious name university.
A prestigious name university.
So it's almost like he, on accident, added an extra word, so they replaced it with something else, but why didn't they just snip it? Why didn't they just snip that one little part? It's really weird. They like these long, languid close-ups that never have any cuts in them, and they need to embrace the jump cut.
Name university.
So I have no idea what's happening here. Sound off on the comments, but I had to talk about it. It's really crazy. Let's watch it 1 or 3 more times.
A prestigious name university.
Name university.
Name university.
But Anthony Morris is about to bring out the big guns. A tragic story. He hates to even have to tell this, but sadly, he's seen it time and time again. This is just one of many examples he could rattle off of the dangers of collage.
One mom, I recall,
Mommy, when I get out, call me Sammy.
Asked me to try and help her son, who was attending a prestigious
adhesive medical strip
university in Rhode Island. After visiting him, I later had to inform her that her son now believed in evolution. She refused to believe it until he finally told her himself.
How sad.
Just imagining Anthony Morris knocking on a door, with a hat, and then the mom opens the door, he takes the hat off, kind of bows his head. Sister? She starts crying before he's even said anything. Your son, he believes in evolution now.
You're lying. I don't believe you. Not until my Johnny says it himself. He needs to say it to my face.
It's so sad that he'll just tell you it's so sad.
How sad.
And take a really long, awkward pause and shift around.
Romans chapter 14.
Sir, a second scripture has hit the broadcast.
Not to judge or become overly critical of the decisions of others.
Yeah, we would never want to be critical of the decisions of others. Some people send their children to these destructive satanic universities where they let Beelzebub himself mold their children's minds like Play-Doh. And if they do that, their children will inevitably believe in ridiculous conspiracies like evolution and thus lose out on the prospect of ever gaining everlasting life. So it's basically a death sentence. And some people do that, totally up to them. But we shouldn't judge people either. We shouldn't be judgy about murderers, the people who basically kill their kids on purpose by sending them to college.
As we mentioned earlier, ultimately the parents must decide how much education a child needs to succeed in life. But does that mean that any decision a parent makes regarding a child's education is fine with Jehovah? Follow along with the reasoning in Romans chapter 14, verses 10 through 12. Here, Jehovah guarantees that one day, every person on earth will be a true worshiper of him. Will you be there? Will your son or daughter be among those alive at that time? Do your personal decisions matter? Yes.
So it's up to you. But also, it's not going to be fine with God. Not everything you do is going to be fine with God. I know that you think you have a personal relationship with him, but this part, it's not personal. This part, it's just business. He put it right here in the rule book. That's really tough. That's tough love, and Anthony Morris was famous for tough love. I worry for the flock that they will not receive the tough love that they so often need. These people, these coal shovelers, these shoal covelers, they need a captain to steer them in the right direction. A shepherd, if you will, with a crook. Sometimes you kind of got to hit him over the head with it. Because, they're sheep. They're fucking stupid.
But of all these animals, which one is most often used in the Bible to represent good people? Sheep.
So you got to ask tough questions like, is your kid going to be alive in paradise? All those beautiful scenes we show you all the time, is your kid going to be there? Or are they going to be dead because you sent them to too much school? Well, I hope Anthony Morris, wherever he is okay, because by his own words, he should maybe be a little worried. There's going to be a reckoning before God, of course.
Yes, we all will have to answer to Jehovah for the decisions we make today. May we all decide to play it safe before our God.
Play it on the safe side with God. Assume he's stricter than you want him to be. Maybe that's why Anthony Morris isn't on the governing body anymore. Maybe he stopped playing it safe. Maybe he was playing it a little fast and loose.
Think of all the opportunities there are now to enjoy divine education, congregation meetings, family worship, assemblies and conventions, the jw.org website, and the station you're watching right now.
Anthony Morris says there's no need for college because you basically go to spiritual college anyway by being a Jehovah's Witness. And it's way better than college because you can never graduate ever no matter what, and you get to learn the same things over and over and over again. And you read the same publications over and over again, and you raise your hand and give the same answers over and over again, and then you go out and you knock on the same doors again and give the same presentation again, over and over. And that's a much better education than learning about history or art or medicine or science or the law, professionals that they actually need to be able to continue to spew this bullshit with no consequences.
But in addition to all of that, the curriculum for the Pioneer Service School has been revised and is getting superb reviews by those attending.
It's getting superb reviews, by the way. The reviews are in. Anthony Morris's captive audience has given the only reviews they're allowed to give, which is 5 stars. They love it. It turns out they love the spiritual food that they're getting. I mean, it is straight from Jehovah. It would be pretty rude to say that it was bad, but it's spectacular. They revised it, and it's spectacular.
Then there's the new curriculum for the School for Kingdom Evangelizers that bolsters and trains students for a career in a variety of theocratic privileges.
Now he's using words like curriculum and career, but the things that he's talking about, this particular career, you don't actually get to make any money doing it. And in fact, you give all the money that you do have to Anthony Morris because you just work for Watchtower Bible and Tract Society full time. And then you have to take a vow of poverty, which is a legal document that you have to sign. Anthony Morris, he's got access to a fair amount of money. At any given time, he can just go out and fill up an entire cart full of liquor. Maybe it was a gift. Maybe just someone on the street gave him some money. Maybe he found some in a gutter. Probably shouldn't speculate. And this curriculum is just slightly reworded stuff from other magazines that everybody else has access to. But the really special thing is you get to sit in the same room as the special people. People like governing body members. You could maybe even have Anthony Morris tell you to your face that you're smart and amazing and super spiritual.
And you're all Bible scholars. Yeah. Really. These people like to throw those terms around, and Jehovah's got the real scholars in the truth,
That'd be really something. I mean, that would be an honor. Becoming a doctor, pursuing a career that brings you fulfillment in your life and makes the most out of your passions and hobbies and interests, saving people's lives, making the world a better place. None of that could quite compare to the true honor of sitting in a class taught by this guy, who's definitely way smarter than any professors. These professors, they think they're so smart. Anthony Morris is smart. He teaches classes every year. I mean, not anymore, because we don't know why, but he did for a long time, and sometimes he even got to show off the cool Bible stuff that he has.
And this here, I got an original one somebody gave me, is a lepta. I think I made Jeff Jackson a little jealous that I had a real one. I think he has a fake one now.
And everyone just had to sit there and listen to him. That's real education. This is real. This is divine education. This is actually some of the most divine education that you can get in the organization because hardly anybody gets to be in these classes. These are only for special people who really work their way up the ladder. So this is the best of the best. This is the cream of the crop. Tony just kind of talking about a coin that he has and making little jokes and telling a really nasty story about a time when he was super horrible to an innocent woman. And he was just a complete asshole to her and made her feel bad.
And this sister wouldn't shut up. All about what she's learning at Gilead. She just would not shut up. I know she was excited, but it's like, excuse me? It wasn't my house, and the host is not saying anything. I said, excuse me, I'm glad you're enjoying Gilead. It's exciting, but could you let him finish? Because I asked him about Fred Francis talking. It's starting to get later. I do want to hear it before I leave. Do you mind? Oh, So she didn't have her observation powers on.
People just had to sit there and listen to him. And now, is he even an elder? Probably not. Nobody has to listen to that crap from him anymore. I just wonder how he feels about this. I wonder if he sits in his little house that Watchtower bought him and watches the tape back like the woman from Sunset Boulevard. Listen, I want to be clear. I probably should have been clearer earlier. Higher education is not for everybody. It's not for me. I have ADHD and don't learn best in that environment, but it's also very cost prohibitive in the United States, at least. So I don't want to try and come off as like some elitist because, let's be clear, I don't have a college education, really. Well, I have some college. That's the little box I get to check on forms. But this is such an embarrassing episode of JW Broadcasting and such an embarrassing clip because it is nakedly, on its face, culty and manipulative.
What secular skills will we be promoting? Skills that'll be useful to God's organization now and after Armageddon. For example, we need construction skills around the world right now. And think about this. We will not need doctors or lawyers after Armageddon, but we will need carpenters and plumbers and similar construction trades.
After Armageddon, the thing that we're constantly scaring you about, we're going to need construction workers. And also, while you're at it being a construction worker, we do happen to have a lot of labor projects around the world that we can put you to good use in. It's a way to serve Jehovah and, a little bit of free labor. And then we can use your free labor to build a really cheap building with crappy materials, and then we can flip it and sell it to like a franchise like a Burger King or a bank or something.
It requires faith to decline higher education and have the confidence that our material needs will be cared for by training in other fields of employment.
Have the confidence that our material needs will be cared for by training in other fields. Let's say you work in a trade, you followed the Anthony Morris path to success, and you're not making ends meet. Well, that's just because you are not trusting in Jehovah enough, mister. Are you sure that you're really giving him your all? I'll bet if you put some of that work to use on Theocratic construction projects, instead of all this work you're always trying to do, making money, a thing that probably Satan invented, well, then Jehovah can't really fully bless you all the way, can he? I'm paraphrasing. Well, I did it again. I recorded for too long a time, and my short, low-effort video turned into a long video that will be released in separate parts. So I talked more about this broadcast. This features an interview with Philip Brumley, Watchtower's top lawyer. And so that's also no longer on the website, which is also interesting. So stay tuned for that, and shout out to all my lovely patrons. So do the things that make videos popular, which would be great. I wonder if Anthony Morris will get to kill as many people in Armageddon as he really wanted to, now that he's not a governing body member anymore. What do you think?
Well, he definitely won't have a golden scepter, that's for sure.
I've got a golden scepter in my arm.